Propagation is what gardeners call growing new plants from existing ones. It's a great way to understand your plants better, to see them grow, and to share them with your friends. And spring and summer is usually the best time to do it. Different plants propagate in different ways, so start by searching for tips on propagating your particular plant. But the three main ways to propagate your plants are by cutting, division, and replanting offsets. Taking a cutting and replanting it creates an exact clone of the original plant, as the original produces roots from the bottom of a cut stem or leaf. Division involves splitting a parent plant into sections, each of which can be replanted as a separate plant. And finally, some plants grow miniature versions of themselves, and we call these offsets. These can be removed and then replanted to grow on their own. And I'm going to show you all three ways. And it's really worth saying that plants, especially propagating plants, do it in different ways. They do it at different times. So this is something to get you started, and then you can go and investigate for the plants you want to propagate. So first we're going to start with cuttings. Now, this is an echeveria and it's a succulent, and succulents are among the best plants to start growing from cuttings because it's what they do in the wild. They drop their leaves, those leaves root, and new plants grow, which means that you've already got a head start. And what you need to do, and it feels drastic, but it's fine, I promise. And it's especially good if you have a succulent that's grown a bit wild or out of shape. This is a new way of getting life out of it. You want to gently tease off the leaf at the spine of the plant, like that. So this is quite a good example because this one has broken off neatly, and that will grow roots quite neatly. This one has cut in half, and you might get this result if you were to use scissors, but I've kind of got a rough edge there. So what you can do is snip it as well, and that should root as well. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. And what you need to do before anything happens is allow these to just sit in the air, and they'll scab over. They'll form a kind of callus. And that's when you can put them into your potting medium or your soil. It's really important to make sure they scab over first, because otherwise when you put them into the tray of soil, something a bit like this, it just means that that's open and it'll get wet and it could go moldy and you won't get any roots at all. So wait for it to scab over. I don't have any I did earlier, this isn't Blue Peter, but give it a few days and you'll see it'll look like a little crust. And then once they've scabbed over, you just want to lay the cut edge on the potting soil like that. Don't stick it directly into the soil. Don't do this because it'll fall over, but it'll also rot. This will be sufficient. And after a really long time, we're talking weeks, patience is key here, then these will start to grow roots. And eventually, succulents will also, and leaf cuttings like this, will eventually grow micro little versions of themselves on their leaf cuttings. It's really cute and exciting, but give it a while. This isn't going to happen overnight. So that's cuttings. Next, we're going to talk about division. So as I said, division is when you break up a plant into separate plants, and there are some that, especially outside, this happens more often than you think because a plant will take over a pot and you'll just want to split it up and make new ones. And again, like other propagation methods, this seems really drastic, but plants are more resilient than you think. So I've already had a bit of a go at this one, but just to show you, what you need to do is divide the root ball like this. Makes you feel like a bit of a superhero. And you've essentially got two separate ferns now. It really is that simple. You can already see with this bird's nest fern that it's kind of ready to grow on and ready to get bigger. So this is a good candidate for dividing. And then it's just a case of potting up like we did in the last lesson. So stick it in a new pot, put some compost around it, give it a good water. Again, the nutrients in this soil will keep it going for a little while, and then you can start feeding. Return the original one to the pot it came from, and give that one some soil too. And then essentially you've got two plants for the price of one. That's division. And finally, offsets. We've got a sempervirvium here. It's strictly an outdoor plant, but you'll see the same thing happening with aloe veras, sansevierias, other houseplants as well, all of which are available through Patch. So again, you need to gently upend it. And you see that all of these here are babies of this original mother plant, and some of them are bigger than others. Now, it takes your approach. If you like how this plant looks, you can totally keep it with this ring of smaller plants around it. It does look great. But if you're repotting anyway, and this is getting pretty root bound, then it's a really good opportunity to take these offsets and give them new homes. They are all technically attached to the main plant, but they also are ready for life on their own. If you gently tease them out, you'll see that they've come ready with roots, and that means that you can just repot them on. So much like we were saying on the repotting lesson, if you were to put these little baby pups, which is the name for small plants, it's weird, but that's what we call them, into a much, much bigger pot, say something that's like this size, they'd totally get lost. They'd freak out, they might not develop so quickly, the shock, which has already been quite intense for them, would only be worse. And there's a chance that they might get mouldy as well and rot. So you're much better off putting them in something that's this big, or maybe even smaller, kind of the smallest pot you can find. Let them settle in, let them develop, and then pot them on again. It's especially important to make sure that you've got the right potting medium when you are potting on offsets, or in fact doing any propagation, because we are dealing with life at kind of a vulnerable stage. So this is an arid plant, it would probably use cactus or succulent compost, and it's really important that these have the same cactus or succulent compost too. That's obviously plant specific, so if you're using a fern, you'd probably use multi-compost, but just make sure before you pot it up, and don't just grab something from your garden, it won't work. And so that's the three methods really, offsets, cuttings, and division. And as I said, this is a very brief introduction. Propagation is a whole new world, but it's one you could definitely get involved with, and it's easier than you think. So make sure you find out what your specific plant needs. All of these are available on the Patch website. And if you want to learn more, the next lesson in the Patch Houseplant Parenting course, Level 2, is about training the plants in your home to grow the way you want them to.